Hi, I'm Frank and welcome to my podcast, The Ride of a Lifetime. On this podcast, I share my personal journey through the ups and downs of building successful businesses. Each episode, I dive into the different aspects of my life, from overcoming business challenges, starting a family, and designing my own cutting-edge carbon fiber e-bike. I hope this podcast can inspire and motivate listeners to take the leap and chase their dreams. Get ready for an exciting journey through the cycles of success with me and some of my friends I have made along the way. This is not a fun episode, but it's an important one. Litigation is often a part of people's business journey, and I have experienced this too. I dive into why it happened and how it ended. Enjoy. So now that I got my solar water heating collectors coming, we were all go with the business and ready to rock and roll. But not everything always goes as you plan. And we learned pretty quickly that starting a business is not all happy and fun. So there's a lot of little things you learn, really, if you start your first business. And we had to learn it the hard way at the beginning, which was very mentally stressful and cost money for things which really were unnecessary, I thought. Because we got the first container of water heatings came to Nelson, and I arranged a storage. I thought, well, what do I do? And I had a possibility to actually buy a 20-foot container, which was great. I put it on the front lawn, not on the front lawn, but around the corner, and painted it all up, made it all look really good, that it blends in a little bit, that we don't sort of upset the neighbors. And got all the collectors coming and really excited, and put them all in the container. And just about the same time as we actually put the collectors, the boxes in the container, somebody from the council came along, and he said, we got a complaint. And I said, oh, really? Who complained? And he said, I can't tell you who it was, but somebody complained about you having a container at your front yard. And I said, oh, well, that's quite interesting. I wouldn't have thought we upset any neighbors. And he says, to be honest, it wasn't a neighbor. And I thought, well, that's really interesting, because who would have done that? But I didn't really give it too much thought at that time. So I said, about what options have we got? And he says, well, you can put a container in the backyard of your house, but it's not allowed at the front yard. So, but it was just about impossible, because we needed a big crane, and it was doable, but it wasn't really. The backyard wasn't designed to have a container sitting there, because it was the kids' play yard. So I said to him, well, can you give me a bit of time to actually find storage facility and sell the container? I just painted up and everything. So it was really frustrating, but it wasn't a huge deal, but it was the start of many more little things which didn't work out the way I thought it would. So we found a place to put the systems in, and we got rid of the container and all good. And then we had the first letter in the mail from a lawyer. And I thought, wow, what have I done wrong? And I was reading through it. And it was a competition. A Nelson established business didn't like that we started up something which they thought they could sort of rule Nelson with, and sued us for lost sales and copy of design, and I just couldn't believe it, because we just started. I don't even know if we sold anything at the time. He's suing me for lost sales, like far out, So anyway, it was like really, really stressful, because you just started. All the money we had, and we had to borrow money because the bank didn't give us anything. And then you get those lawyer letters. So it really thrown me out of balance. It was stressful, because lawyers, who likes to deal with lawyers, right, when you start a business? And specifically because we didn't do anything wrong. We started a business and competed, of course, against others in Nelson, but that somebody rolls on which had money behind them and is suing us was like, wow, it wasn't good. So I looked at it with my wife, and we had to respond to it. We had to sort of send a letter back from a lawyer saying, hey, what's the story here? So it was really difficult to even make a selection who you think would represent you, what lawyer would I mean, every lawyer would take it on, but how do you know you getting a good lawyer, you know? I mean, you look in the yellow pages and there are lawyers for Africa, but how do you know a lawyer is a good lawyer? It's an interesting question. How do you know a lawyer is a good lawyer? Because they all seem to have the same qualification, but I didn't know if a lawyer is a good lawyer. And I went to a local company called Pitts and Moore, do a bit of advertising for them, and selected one, which I thought, well, it is a well-respected company, but down the track it turned out it wasn't the best move, but I didn't know that. So I had a meeting with them and I showed them this and I said, hey, that's nonsense. I haven't done anything wrong. But we had to counter that with another letter of why and whatever the lawyers did. We just carried on with business, so he advised, don't get stressed about, get on with your life, keep doing what you're doing, and we thought that out. But at the end of the day, it really wasn't quite as simple as sorting it out, because he didn't let go of it. He kept nagging and doing those things, and every letter which he had to send cost money we really didn't have at the beginning. So it got more and more stressful, and we had stages where we thought, why are we doing this? You know, why is that guy doing it to us? But that was life. We got sued for no particular reason, and we had to go with it, you know. So I kept focusing on my business again and establishing it, and didn't try to avoid thinking about that other guy who tries to sort of get me out of business before I even started. So we built our business, we got out there, and it was really hard. I mean, I'm not from Nelson, obviously, and there were a lot of solar businesses. There was because solar water heating was the only affordable solar solution at the time. PV, I think it was $16 a watt or something crazy. Now it's like under $1. So the only people who did solar PV were people which had off-grid houses, and they needed it. But everything was solar water, so everybody jumped on that solar water heater bandwagon. And then there was another one like us, and we started. So penetrate into a market which was crowded and was run by locals was really difficult. And at the time we didn't have anything special, because we just started. All the modifications and the changes we made to our collector took time. But when we started, we had a collector which looked pretty similar, because every Chinese factory done the same thing. And so to shine with something which everybody else got, well, you couldn't. But what was clear is what we could do. We could shine with exceptional service, with being there on time, sticking to the quote we do, making it simple for people, because we had to do paperwork for the council. And so the only way we could shine was customer service and doing things you say you do and stick to your quotes. And that's what we did. And slowly we got more and more business, but it was tough. It was really hard. And the guy didn't let go. But again, we sent letters for and back, and I think it took nearly 2 years. It was a bloody long time. And at some stage, really, when because I did still some engineering work on the side to supplement the business I just started. I couldn't just do it full time. There wasn't enough sales, so I did it after hours and taking a day off to install a solar water heating system. So I jiggled a full-time job as well as starting up the business to make sure we don't get too deep in debt with our money. I didn't want to have, make sure we can survive. And one day I had to go to Wellington because from the engineering side, there was a job to be done in Wellington. And so I packed my gear and I was on the first plane to Wellington. And there was a guy, a tremendously successful businessman was there, and I knew him because I did lots of work on his business. And so I seen him there, and we went to Wellington. And on the way back to Nelson again from Wellington, he sat there again. And I don't know why I done it, to be honest, but it was the best thing I ever did. And I said to him, "Aren't you Mr.?" And he says, yes, I am. And we started chatting. And we had quite a bit of time before we actually had to board the plane. So we talked about lots of things. And one thing came up because I knew how experienced and successful he is in business. I talked about that I get sued from somebody. And he says, "Oh, yeah. Blah, blah, blah." And he says, if you ever feel like you're in the corner and you don't know any further, give me a call and I'll see if I can help you. And I said, "Thank you very much." I was very grateful because, I looked like, got my engineering clothes on, and I was happy that he even spoken to me, but offering me to support me in a situation where I was really thankful for that. And so he gave me his phone number, his cell phone number and everything, and I thought, wow, amazing. So around 6 months down the track, I really felt like I don't know what to do next, He had the money, he could do whatever. I didn't. I really felt like I needed help. So I called that man. And I said, "You remember me?" And he said, "Yes, I do." "And you remember what you offered me, that if I don't know where to go from there, I could ask you for advice?" And he says, "Yes." So he said, come to my office and we have a talk. And I did. And he had some of his legal team there, which looked at my paperwork. And it was pretty clear to them that I had a lawyer which actually wasn't up to the task. The lawyer that other guy had was much smarter than the one I had, and the recommendation was get a different lawyer, and they recommended a lawyer which then immediately took on. And this lawyer then changed the whole approach of the situation, and we ended up actually taking them to court. So, and when the court case was set, they bailed. They said, "We drop the charges if you don't sue us." So it turned around 2 years later because it was all doom and gloom. They had nothing. And when we really challenged them then they pulled the plug. So 2 very stressful years, and I learned a lot from it. But to start a business like this wasn't good, was the hard way, so to say. But at least I could get on with it. And when that was behind us, everything else felt like it's easy to manage, because of going through this mental terror and then have it behind you, it felt really, really good. So we carried on. We got more customers, the business started to grow, and yes, I just kept developing it, What we started off with was stainless steel frames, which were very, very difficult to drill on the roof to get them all fitted, and it was quite hard. So I started really making changes to the manifold, changes to the frame, went to China, went back, and we really ended up actually creating a really, really good product. And that's when I thought, well, now that I know we got a good product, we got a good reputation, we started to get really known in Nelson, why don't we take it a step further? So I had a good man in Blenheim, which he wasn't able to afford a franchise, so to say. It wasn't a franchise model like you see with Jenny and Holmes or something. It was a more basic arrangement, but he was really, really good. So we made a deal that he became Solar Technology Blenheim. And that was just great because Blenheim, again, got a lot of sunshine hours, is a great place for solar. And then having somebody in Blenheim which could be working with us as a franchisee was fantastic. It was really, really good. And then we expanded it further into Timaru. We had a really good guy, Dale, which came on board, and he was also really driven. So we had a good team to really establish ourselves. And me doing kind of the rest of the country, really, because I sold my business like, if you want a solar collector, we do it for you. So we had places we went to Kerry to install solar, like on the plane, like miles away. But hey, we quoted for it, and we won the job, and then I had to do it. I packed my tools on the plane by myself, went to Kerry, and pre-arranged before the trip to have a plumber there and an electrician who could basically help me with the plumbing. But there's all the things you did. You had to make money. I had to sort of stay in business, and I took any job we had. And what I'm really thankful as well is in the days when we needed support, we had my father-in-law who backed me, who backed us, who believed in us. And without him, thank you, Vernon, when you watch that, without him, I couldn't have done it because I didn't have the financial means to do it. And he always had my back. He believed in me. And when it came down to installations out of Nelson, like in the North Island, he helped me as well. So we jumped in his car and we traveled wherever we need to go, and he gave me a hand. So looking back, he was a driving force to keep us in business, and when we needed support, he was there. So thanks, Vern. It was fantastic. So we grown, and we had people around the place, and we started to train plumbers up. Like, we approached people in different areas, and we said, hey, we got this kind of solar collector, you a plumber, so do you want to be a representative of our brand? And they said yes. So I went around the country and shown plumbers the best way to fit our solar collector on roofs. So I had a really good time. It was really hard, but it was great to go to see the country, to do some solar installations, to meet new people. We had even cases where I won jobs and I stayed customers, because you couldn't do sometimes a job coming out of Nelson, turning up there, doing it all and traveling back. So sometimes it was impossible if it was like in the middle of central North Island or something. We had cases where it wasn't possible. And the customer said, hey, do you want to stay there? I got a spare bedroom. And me and Vern stayed in the bedroom at the customer's place, and then the next day we finished it off. So the generosity of some of those customers was amazing. They made us dinner sometimes. It was fantastic, you know. And I think a lot of contributed to us looking after them and really treating them with almost the most respect and doing a good job and sticking to what we said we do. There were no hidden costs, and if there were, I swallowed it. I just said that's what the cost is, and I think that reputation of being honest, doing a good job, sticking to what we're saying, spread. That word spread. Solar Technology Systems is a good company to deal with, and that helped us grow. So when we established those places and we had to get slowly a reputation, we started to actually look a bit further. What big project could we do? You know, what could we do others haven't done? So once we had a job coming up in Dargaville, like a tender, okay, And it was, at the time, it would have been the biggest solar water heating installation ever done. And I thought, wow, it would be really good to go for that, because we had ECA tested our collectors like they tested anybody's collector at the time, and you got reviewed and you got a rating of how good your solar collector performs, and we were at the top. We done really, really well due to continuous improvement of the collector and working with the manufacturers. So we had a really, really good review, and it was tested in the laboratory. Like, on-site testing was all facts. And because we had such a good review, we thought, well, might as well pretend to be bigger than we really were. And then the tender came up, and it was quite a biggie. So for us, it was, we had to make sure we didn't miscalculate our quote and don't lose money on it, because it wasn't darkable, and so there were no big shops you can quickly do something, or so we had to make sure we get it right. So what I did is, when I had the plan, I tried to sort of think of everything, broke every step of a job down. What do we need? Really, to be really careful. And we put that tender in, and we quoted against some really big businesses, but we won the tender. I just couldn't believe that we got it. So of course you win it, and then you have to do it. So I thought, what's the best way of doing it? So I asked my guy in Timaru, my guy in Plenum, and there was a plumber in Whangarei, and so it's still a small team, but we got the team together, and the guys liked to be part of this because it was the biggest solar water install at the time. So of course they wanted to be part of it. So I thought, what's the most cost-efficient way to execute this one? There was 1,460 class tubes, 60 or 80, 60 I think. So it was a hell of a lot of solar tubes had to be fitted. So it was a big job. It was a whole container full of solar collectors. And I thought, if we have bad weather or something and we have to all manufacture them from scratch on the roof, it would be a big job. So I jumped on the plane, went to China, sat with them, and got them to prefabricate every system the way I needed it for the roof structure we had. So basically, when they came, they were ready to be unboxed, framed together, and it fitted like a glove. So it meant we had, even if it rained, we could still do those things because we didn't have to do drilling, or it just worked really well. They were designed to fit. And this trip paid off big time. It saved us a lot of time. So I think it was 4 days or 5 days, and we had it all completed. Like, it was a big job, but we all worked really hard, and we had it prefabricated. I had a really, really good team I was really thankful with, and we done it. And it turned out pretty good. I think they liked it. We had to make one change where it wasn't really our fault. It was, we had to follow a design, and the design wasn't actually as good as it worked out on paper. So we had to make a change down the track. But other than that, that worked really, really well. And of course, that gave us a good reputation, and it made us feel really good that we as a small team did such an amazing big job. And when we executed this, then down the track, we did the Solar Saver scheme, which was that every company in Nelson who was selected to be part of this had the opportunity to quote for homeowners in the Nelson region, and they could pay off the solar system through their rates, which was great because some people didn't have the financial means to purchase a solar water heating collector. But this way, it meant they could sign up, no upfront cost, and paid it off over, I don't know, it was 10 years or something, with their rates. But it was great, and it really boosted our business again because we had a good reputation, we had fantastic reviews, we had a good rating from ECA. So here we go, we went for this, and we done really, really well. And then a bit later on, we had the opportunity to sell the business, and that was something which I never crossed my mind I would do, but the opportunity was there, and we looked deeper into it. And the attractive part was that the buyer, which was K1W1, one of Stephen Tyndall's investment companies, they wanted to form Solar City. So they basically, the dream of Solar City was having a selection of established businesses and then form this new identity. And they needed a solar water heating collector, like a tube collector, in the mix of what they already had. And so we talked, and I think because of the reputation we had, and we owned the design as well, so it meant that they could instantly integrate us in their business model. And for us, it meant we stepped up to playing with the big boys. But what was really important was that when we sold the business, which I felt was really important, and that got honored, and I'm very grateful that Solar City did what they said they did, of honoring every customer's warranties on the system, because I felt like if you sell a company, then the buyer wants to buy the assets of it, but not the liabilities. But the business had liabilities because there were outstanding warranties. And I didn't want to sell the business unless they would agree to look after the customers until the warranty expired. And I think it wasn't easy for them, but they did it, and they honored it because they had warranty things which had to be sorted, and they stuck to it. And I think that was great from Solar City to actually do this one and stick with it. And for me, I could walk down the road with my head held high up, knowing that I'd done the best I could for the customers which purchased products of me. And we sold the business, and then Solar City took over, and they kept running it, integrated with their big Solar City umbrella. So yeah, that was a really good exercise of building a business, making it a great business, and then selling it with conditions which made everybody happy. If you were a purchaser, or if you was the seller or the buyer, so we all actually had a win-win situation. And that is pretty much the story of my first startup, from having a hell of a headache to getting over it, to building it up, to making it a great New Zealand business and selling it. So yeah, that's Solar Technology Systems. Thank you so much for watching my podcast. I hope some of you out there are inspired and motivated by it. Remember, anybody can do what I have done. It just takes courage, determination, and a bit of luck, which we all have. Now, go out there, enjoy the ride of your lifetime.